more discussion topic here because advertisers received another fun notifications from Google Ads this week. It says, as of 1 November 2020, we will begin adding a fee to your next invoice or statement for ads served in these specific countries. Ads served in Turkey, a 5% regulatory operating cost added to your invoice or statement. Ads served in Austria, a 5% Austria DST fee added to your invoice. And ads served in the UK, a 2% UK DST fee added to your invoice or statement. So with the UK fee in particular, it was announced earlier this year that the UK was going to charge a 2% tax for, quote, large multinational enterprises with revenue derived from the provision of a social media service, a search engine, or an online marketplace to UK users. And Google, with this news, is essentially announcing that they are passing this fee on to the advertisers. So I'll start with you here, Julie. What do you think of this news, and what do you think it means for advertisers using Google Ads?
I'm going to start with the positive. At least they're being 100% transparent.
Yeah, unlike some other stories we've had today.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, is anybody surprised that they're passing the fee on? I mean, do we really think that they're going to eat 2 to 5% of revenue for advertising in this market? No, they're not going to do that. I would say this to me is like, I tweeted about this today too. Google Ads is so bad at positioning things and rolling things out. Like for the amount of resources that organization has, it shocks me how they really don't know how to speak to the audience who's going to be receiving the information a lot. So I feel like, it is what it is, right? If you're doing business people are mad because it's like, well, I'm not a huge multinational corporation, right? I'm a small advertiser, but I'm doing business on a platform that like meets that criteria. So should I have to pay that 2% tax? I mean, I feel like that's a question that could probably, you could debate for days, but I mean, I don't know. This isn't something that's going to get changed. They're passing this on because they don't want to absorb it. So, if you're advertising in those markets, you're going to have to just start, baking that in. I mean, that's just the new reality, which kind of stinks.
Mm-hmm. And when the UK government announced this tax, they said they wanted to tax these, quote, large multinational enterprises, but they didn't say anything about taxing the advertisers, like Julie said. So, Andrea, do you think this is legal or fair? And do you think, isn't it kind of just effectively bypassing the goal of the tax by passing it on? What are your thoughts?
I don't necessarily hate everything about this. And the reason being is if you're going to have different costs associated with running your business, you usually pass that into increasing your price. I am not a legal expert, but if these governments didn't specifically mention, you have to actually get it from your revenue rather than passing it through, or you cannot change your cost structure. It kind of feels like that it's not 100% Google's fault. Obviously, I don't want to pay for it because that means that the very small advertiser that spends $100,000 or something like that it's very small, it's gonna get hit pretty hard because every dollar counts. So those are my thoughts about it. I don't necessarily hate it, but I don't see Google reducing the revenue just because they put a tax on them.
Yeah, I think the way that this was just immediately passed directly onto advertisers and there being no part of the legislation to make sure it was coming directly out of Google's pocket. Really just reminds me of how little governments actually understand how online advertising works. My mind went straight to a few years ago of when Mark Zuckerberg was testifying in Congress during Cambridge Analytica. And there was a senator from Utah who was like, how do you possibly sustain a business model where users don't pay to use Facebook? And Mark Zuckerberg was like, Senator, the exact quote is, Senator, we run ads. Like they have no idea how these things work. And the fact that there wasn't some security where this isn't going to be passed on to small businesses, like that reeks of them not really thinking it through how online advertising actually works. But besides that, on the other hand, this is going to get passed on to advertisers regardless. So with the way Google did it, it's direct, it's being included in your invoice. But if they were just paying it themselves, they would just increase what a click costs. Like either way, advertisers are going to pay for it. It's just whether that is going to be itemized like Google is now and including in the invoice, or if we won't see it and CPCs are just going to go up a little bit. So really, there's nothing we can do to prevent this from affecting small businesses.
Well, and Amazon's passing it along too. So, I mean, I feel like it's probably only inevitable that we will get information forthcoming from the rest of the platforms as well as to how they're planning on handling it. But Google's not the only one. I mean, Google made it November 1st. Amazon, I think they made it effective September 1st. So
they're getting right to the point. It's a little race.
Did they announce September 1st too, like Google did with the search terms report? Hey,
I think they did. Like, I don't do work in Amazon ads, but I did see some people, tweeting about that. Like, hey, Amazon, so I feel like with any of these taxes, it's going to be, unless there's something specifically in the legislation that says you can't do this. What company? I mean, and that's just business, right? Like as Andrea was saying, like you pass on when your costs increase. Sometimes you just eat it. But most of the time, it kind of creeps in and it increases, the end cost for your users. So I fully expect that all of the other platforms that are selling advertising, if they are being hit with this tax in those different countries, you're going to see it manifest in one of the two ways, either directly passed on or, the cost per clicks are just going to, they're just going to creep up to cover it.
Like what you saw? Of course you did. If you're looking for more, Marketing O'Clock releases new episodes every Friday with the digital marketing news of the week. You can subscribe wherever you consume your podcasts, or click to watch the full episode, the next news story, or read all the articles